Welcome to our monthly Pan-African roundup on popular struggles and solidarity campaigns. Workers at Eskom reject wage offer. After having met with Eskom management last week for another round of wage negotiations, workers in the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa have rejected the 5.25% increase offered by the employers. This is part of a broader campaign where organized workers in the energy sector refuse to continue to suffer through a reduction of benefits and zero wage increases, while the financial mismanagement of the state-owned entity continues unabated, such as through the prevalence of bloated contracts. Amid threats and expectation, Ugandan unions strive to organize garment sectors. The Ugandan textiles, garments, leather and allied workers has been working to mobilize workers in the country's garment and textile facilities in a sector marred by the neoliberal reforms, informalization and exploitative working conditions. Earlier in May, 5 members of the Uganda Textile, Garments, Leather and Allied Workers Union were arrested by police in the capital of Kampala. The campaign, which is composed of 285 trade unions and labor rights groups, has accused Adidas of withholding pay from workers, with $11.7 million in wages owed to workers in 8 supplier factories in Cambodia alone. The retaliation to this simple act of solidarity with garment workers in another part of the world signals the environment of intimidation that union leaders and activists have been subjected to in Uganda, especially in a sector that is generally notorious for job precarity and exploitation, undergirded by the policies that have been prioritized investment over decent working conditions. Zambia, a crisis of hunger is looming. There is a greater need to understand how maize, the country's staple food, is produced in Zambia, whose production is not guided by the present realities of the domestic needs and the often conflicting regional market demands. Socialist Party President Fred Member explained the looming crisis in relation to the current conditions.
When they started to boast about exporting maize, taking up an opportunity of a market that exists in the region, we thought, they would mull over things and look at the stocks of maize that are in the country and how maize is produced in this country. Yes, there may be a market in the Congo or elsewhere, but you cannot satisfy that market without changing the way maize is produced in this country.
South Africa, freedom without land means nothing. Every year, the 27th of April is commemorated as Freedom Day in South Africa. It marks the first election with universal voting rights after the fall of white supremacist apartheid rule 29 years ago. However, for South Africa's socialist militant Sheikh Dweller's movement, the occasion is an expression of how poor and otherwise marginalized communities in the country remain profoundly unfree. The General Secretary Thapelo Mohapi talks about the true meaning of Freedom Day for the masses of South Africa.
Freedom without land means nothing. Freedom without, when we are still living under very inhuman conditions in the shared settlements where there's no access to basic services. People are still fighting to have access to sanitation in this country 29 years later into so-called democracy. So we have nothing to celebrate. We cannot fool ourselves and celebrate fake freedom.